What's up, YouTube? Back with another one. A 1987 Buick Grand National. Did the digital Dakota digital dash installed on it. Yeah, a little bit about it. It's the Dakota digital VHX. It's got the 160 mile per hour speedometer, 8,000 tack, 220 temp, all up to 80. Got 2 volts, the gas in. And this one also has the boost. It tells you your boost, what your boost is in your little gauge here. Just basically on the install, you get your constant to it, 12 volt from the battery, which is hot. You got a 12 volt key switch to it, your ground, and run that to you, all that to your box, your Dakota digital box. Basically, everything on here works. Check in the light, everything works. And I mounted the box and also the BIM module, which is for the boost, to add the boost to this gauge. I mounted it actually behind the gauges. There was just enough room, probably about that much, just enough for the box. I mean, it still got plenty of clearance on it. Maybe got about an inch and a half. I mean, half-inch clearance behind there between the box and the gauge. Like I said, plenty enough room. The only thing I wish I could have showed you, I should have done that beforehand, where the box went in. I had to, it's smooth back there, but it's a little openings for where the factory plugs actually come out. But so you only have like room to put one screw in. So what I did to get it over enough to where it was in the right place, I used my oscillating tool and cut a notch in the side plate there, and I was able to slide the tab, one of the tabs of the box, into the back there, and it went in, and I was able to put a screw in. The BIM module fit on the other side at the lower. I left enough room for the wires to have enough room. I didn't want to have, any wires crimped or anything like that could cause a short, so I didn't, got all that wired in. For those of you who are doing the Dakota digital, I know a lot of people have a lot of questions about where you put your oil pressure, where you put your water temp, where you put your where your tack module connect at. So I'm gonna show you a little bit here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Right there, right here, that's your water temp gauge. It goes in the top. You can remove this one. There's 2 water temp gauges. There's a water temp sensor here and a temp sensor is right here on the opposite side of the intake, below these wires right there. That one actually goes to your computer. This one over here controls your light. So you can remove that because you're putting in new gauges. So I removed that one. Just clip the wire out of the way. You don't have to clip the wire, just if you want to go back later on and use that. Also, with the oil pressure, right here is your oil filter and the cooler lines for your oil pressure. Let's see if I can get right there is where I had to mount the oil pressure sensor. The original oil pressure sensor mounts there. I know a lot of people have a whole big thing about the fact that the oil pressure sensor runs the fuel pump, sends the pressure to the gauge, to the light, and also it runs the it does something with just in case your fuel pump relay dies, it will keep the power going to your fuel pump so that you can continue to go on, as you if you're out somewhere and the fuel relay dies. And it's a lot of people say, oh, you won't have your fuel pump relay, it won't have that. But this car has got on it what it calls a hot wire system, where it bypasses all that, so it actually has another relay by the tank that runs the fuel pump. It still has that relay, factory relay, and it has that hot wire relay as well. And it runs off of the alternator. You got your fuse there, and it just ties the hot wire into the back of the alternator. Also, everyone's wondering where you tie into your tack wire. On these cars, I hadn't seen a video, but I've read through the threads and everything. On the back, behind your alternator, there's this green wire. This green plug, rather. The wire is not green. It's actually like a tannish, off-white looking color. But this is your tack signal right here. Probably when you see it, like I had this one, it was plugged into this wire here. And they were plugged in together. Luckily, I didn't tie into this wire, which it says it does something with the fuel pump as well. Yeah, I think it changes the speed of the fuel pump, depending on your RPM. So, but I tied it into this, spliced it in here, and ran to the inside. And originally, my tack wouldn't work when I tied it in. So what the problem was, if you leave these two plugged in together, the tack will not work. But you disconnect it, the tack will work perfectly. So I just left it unhooked. Everything on the car runs perfectly without the oil pressure sensor, without the water temp sensor over there, and without the this wire plugged in for this fuel pump reference. Like I said, everything works fine, runs fine. We're gonna fire this thing up. This is the all original Grand National, as you can see. I went from, let's see if I can find the original gauge cluster. Well, this is not the original. Somebody installed a Buick Regal gauge cluster in here, which you notice it only goes to 85. And it's right here where it says Regal Buick Motorsports. The Grand National gauge cluster does have a tachometer in there, like a slide tachometer. So someone installed this, and I could tell they installed it because when I took the cluster out, the plug, usually there's a plug right here where these lights are on the Grand National, also that plug, they had cut the wires, cut the plug out and just left the wire sitting in there. So I could tell they had somewhere had changed it at one point. But we got this in. I'm gonna fire this thing up, let you see what the gauges look like. So it shows you check in the light, shows your boost is now at 43. Everything worked. Temp. And you turn your lights on. Probably can't see it in the daytime. It lights your needles up. You notice off, not much light on. Easy way, think on this thing, when you're trying to install your oil pressure sensor, don't fight it. Just take this bottom radiator hose off, and you can get right in there, get your tools in there, get right in there. It's a little tight fit once you put that new sensor on there, but it fits in there pretty good. Like I said, you have to remove that bottom radiator hose. That's the easiest route. Don't fight it. It's simple. And also, this is the boost sensor. I just zip tied it. I think I'm gonna make a bracket and mount it up here so that it won't be on this coolant line. But basically, the instructions say to tie it into the fuel pressure regulator. This one has an aftermarket regulator, so it was a little bit smaller line. I saw one video where the guy tied it into this line for the map sensor. So it comes with this hose, comes with the T, the fitting to go onto the boost sensor, and so all you do is plug it into the map sensor connection, vacuum port, and plug the line that goes to the vacuum sensor. The map sensor. Excuse me. Tie that in, and use these little zip ties. They kind of help keep these hoses on. These little smaller zip ties. It keeps them from sliding off. That was a bad issue on these cars. They like to the vacuum lines like to pop off. So use that. But other than that, everything works out. Alright, YouTube. That's another digital dash install. And we'll see you next time.